These are just very few of the number of items that the club can do in order to, again, develop a good membership recruitment program. And that is things like developing good promotional materials, having a quality brochure, DVDs, etc. Identifying candidates for membership through an assortment of activities, like hosting special member guests. Now, this isn't your typical member guest, but member guests where it's a candidate for membership accompanying a member. Having public relations activities to the community to make the community more aware. You know, there's a perception out there that, God, it takes forever to get in the Derrick Club. And a lot of individuals may not want to apply if they think they have to wait an extended period. So we really need to get the word out about the Derrick. Annual nomination cards, membership committee and membership staff person to identify professionals. I can go on and probably name 20 or 30, but we don't have time tonight to discuss all of the different membership strategies that the club can implement and is planning to implement. Not only planning, but I think are in the process of doing many of these things as we speak. And then we need to maintain a strong financial position for the club. So one of those things that in order to do this, the club needs to be competitive among the top-tiered clubs in Edmonton in terms of pricing strategy. And then one of the most important things is, how is the club going to accumulate funds for capital projects? The sources that many clubs use, and also sources available for the Derrick, one is obviously using the transfer fees, which it has done in the past and probably will always do. A monthly capital fee per shareholder is also very common at most clubs. It has almost become standard at clubs today because, especially as I mentioned earlier, because there are a lack of new members joining clubs, a lack of transfer fees coming in, many clubs have had to institute a capital fee in order to generate the revenues needed for capital projects because of this. And so it's becoming much more standard in order to do that and fund capital projects. And also, many clubs are increasing the cap that they normally had for their different membership categories. So their cap on athletic, their cap on golf, and so forth, because of the excess capacity that's available in many of those areas, especially, for example, in golf. Some clubs have added additional members in their non-peak periods, for example, during the times that the golf course is wide open, in order to bring in additional revenue. So those are the three sources that I think are available as well for the Derrick Club: transfer fees, a monthly capital fee, and then also a small increase in the number of members. And the club needs to maintain and improve its facilities. And the club is going to form a long-range planning committee, and it will be the responsibility of this long-range planning committee to determine the priority of the capital projects and getting the price estimates, the cost estimates, and so forth, and then putting forth to the membership what the plan is for this year, for the future, and so forth, the capital projects. Now, the key thing is again, it takes a long time by the time you identify specific capital projects and then determine what capital projects can be done in conjunction in order to save the club money to doing those particular projects. So one of the responsibilities of the Long-Range Planning Committee is to develop a master long-range plan and to schedule and prioritize those renovations and remodeling projects. One of the things the club needs to do is, because another trend is for many club members are going to become older. The average life expectancy of members is going to increase significantly. And members are going to be much more active as they, it used to be, remember, that, by the time you reach 65, many individuals could barely walk, could barely use the club, couldn't play a round of golf or whatever. That's not the case with today's retirees, who are much more active, much more healthy, and will be involved in the club. And so the club needs to say, how are we going to accommodate this older members, and making the club as handicap friendly as possible is going to be an important part of that. This committee will allocate resources based on both the projects that many members indicated they preferred on the survey, as well as projects that will attract future members to the club. So some of those projects that will attract future members were not necessarily projects that members supported. And this is where the committee has the fiduciary responsibility to the membership to tell the members, these are the projects you need to do. I know on the survey maybe you didn't say you needed it, but we're going to need to do these in order to attract the Gen Xers, who's going to be the primary market over the next decade or so. So what are those projects? The golf facilities, again, the ones that the members indicated they preferred the most were, in terms of golf, was renovating and improving the golf bunkers and burns and providing a state-of-the-art indoor golf teaching and practice center. But from a long-range standpoint, these other projects are also very important. Increasing water access, lake capacity, and improving the retention capabilities. Because water is going to be the #1 issue for private clubs across Canada. All we need to do is look at the swings and weathers. God, look at all your snow out there. You know, there's something going on out there with our weather, and the swing and golf and water access is going to be critical. And so the club needs to have a plan in order to have access to water. Renovate and improve the tee areas, and implement the other improvements as indicated in the golf course master plan. In terms of athletic facilities, definitely the #1 athletic facilities preferred by members was a multi-purpose gymnasium. But again, from a long-range perspective, in order to attract the Gen Xers, to attract future members, making the club much more family recreational facilities, again, will keep the club in that family-oriented. Improving the badminton courts, which had a high level of dissatisfaction, providing squash, indoor tennis, physiotherapy for your that's coming, expanding and improving the fitness center, and providing a full-service spas are all trends and things that, again, your new market is going to be demanding of private clubs. The dining facilities, definitely the majority of members supported expanding and improving the Spikes Bar area because that's the #1 area used. Long range, expanding and improving the Sun Cafe because very casual dining was very important to members and the large percentage of children that you have at the club. You need to continue to upgrade this aging clubhouse. It is getting older and it's going to need to have improvements done to it. The kitchen facilities are in need of renovation and improvement as well. And again, I talked about the profitability level of the banquet room, and improvements need to be made to the banquet area in order to attract business meetings, weddings, and so forth here. In summary, implementing the strategic plan will allow the Derrick to, 1, attract candidates for membership, which is the #1 priority, retain current members, maintain, again, as high a level of satisfaction as possible at the club. Obviously, an important factor is making the club to be strong financially, provide a direction for future boards, because we all know how the board members go off on an annual basis, and new board members come on. And again, allow the Derrick to achieve its mission and vision. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, I thought the best way to end this presentation is to talk about what the mission and the vision of the club is. And again, that mission is that the Derrick is going to be a family-oriented golf, recreation, and social club dedicated to providing quality facilities and services to its membership. And its vision is to be the most sought-after private club providing the most desirable desirable blend of exceptional facilities and services in a comfortable atmosphere. So thank you so much for being a great audience, and right now I'll take any questions that you may have.
From a water access point of view, have we looked at drilling wells? Is that legal, feasible, allowable?
I think we haven't looked at specific tactics yet to address that, but that is going to be one of the responsibilities of the long-range planning committee, is to say, okay, water access, these are the different tactics, what are the costs associated with each of those tactics? I mean, drilling could be one, purchasing rights, I mean, there's a whole lot of assortment of things, improving the retention of the ponds, I mean, there's a variety of things, so all of those are going to be explored. As part of this process, we didn't explore all of the different tactics or even come up with a recommendation on any of those. So that's going to be one of the primary responsibilities of the Long-Range Planning Committee.
One is relates to, in your experience, do clubs have member relationship management systems? And I'm thinking about a very specific profile for members, and then an ability for the club to take a look and manage that relationship, like a customer relationship management system, a member relationship management system. In your experience, do clubs have that kind of thing? Second question relates to what you had mentioned about the decrease in the golf, the 260 folks on the athletic side that would be interested at some point in the future of having, access to golf memberships. In your experience, where clubs have similar sorts of facilities that we have, do you ever see an athletic / range membership where athletic members can have, for additional cost, access to the range? Now, I know we do have that a little bit now, but we don't have it built in any significant way. So that's another question. Is there a way of sort of getting that transition of folks onto the range, and perhaps even having a couple of rounds of golf in there too, just reformulating what we currently have to tap into that. And the third piece was, in your experience, do clubs have affinity programs? I'm thinking of like a club reward program where a club could have relationships, discounts for its members to similar sorts of vendors, sports vendors, entertainment, ski hills, that don't compete with the club. Do you see that kind of thing at all?
Okay, those are great questions. First of all, with the relationship questions, most clubs live and die on what kind of relationship they have with their members. I mean, we could talk about facilities, but really a club is the service that's provided to the members. And so most of the clubs are trying to monitor that, and many times it's done by the different feedback mechanisms, filling out the card maybe after you had a meal, or calling members periodically that have used the club for different services, and then trying to get feedback. Did we meet, or did we exceed your expectations? Doing periodic surveys like this as well. So clubs primarily are trying to find out what that relationship is through a number of mechanisms of communication, typically through feedback on cards and things like that. And a lot of the responsibility, the satisfaction level of each department really is the measurement of whether a department is having that good relationship with its members there. Let me see. In fact, my memory sometimes isn't good. The second question was about the golf. The athletic range. We're seeing more and more clubs having a variety of golf access. So for example, the most common kind we see is full privilege, which you have, and then we have what we typically refer to as non-peak golf membership categories. Now you do have that currently, this non-peak time where it's a little bit of a different rate structure. Some clubs that non-peak is exactly what you mentioned. It's not that you can only access it. It would be just the driving range, and maybe you have 6 rounds of golf a year. We don't typically see like 3 or 4 different golf levels. It's usually just peak or non-peak. But what is the definition of non-peak? And what you're describing is what some clubs have. Your non-peak golf membership is much more friendlier and allows more access, not only the range, but that. But I guess what you're asking is, should the club have this third membership category, which would even be more limited? And I think that's probably, from a membership development standpoint, a great question to look at. Will that attract a lot of individuals? And that may be very appropriate there. And the third question, affinity program. The affinity programs. We don't see, what we see is a lot is the reciprocity programs, but that's not really a discount.